I find inspiration in my surroundings.
Before the world knew him as the cake boss, Buddy Valastro's life was shaped by humble beginnings, family unity, and a fierce work ethic that would later define his entire legacy. Born into a tight-knit Italian-American household, Buddy's earliest memories were wrapped in the warm aroma of pastries and the sound of loyalty that anchored his family together. His father's bakery, Carlo's, was more than a business. It was the heart of their world and the place that shaped his childhood. Everything Buddy eventually became, the leader, the artist, the businessman, was rooted in those early years spent absorbing lessons from a father who believed deeply in hard work, tradition, and love. But destiny had far more in store for Buddy than flour, sugar, and family recipes. His journey would rise higher than even he imagined, and crumble harder than anyone expected. A childhood molded by family tradition and flour Buddy. Valastro's early years were built on the simple but powerful foundation of family. Growing up as the youngest of 5 children in a traditional Italian-American household, he was constantly surrounded by food, noise, laughter, and the unmistakable energy that fills a home full of siblings. His parents, hard-working Italian immigrants, instilled values that would become the backbone of his future success: discipline, loyalty, and pride in one's craft. Carlo's Bakery, purchased by his father in the 1960s, served as more than a workplace. It was the Valastro family's second home. Buddy spent countless afternoons watching his father knead dough or assemble pastries with skill and precision. By age 11, he wasn't just watching anymore. He was part of the workforce, absorbing knowledge long before he realized those lessons would one day shape an empire. Even as a young boy, Buddy understood the bakery wasn't just a business, it was his family's legacy. It represented sacrifice, heritage, and the American dream. These early experiences would eventually become the emotional thread weaving through his later success, grounding him even when fame tried to pull him away from where it all began. A life-changing loss that forced him into leadership too soon. In 1994, tragedy struck Buddy's world in a way he could never have expected. At just 17, he faced the shattering loss of his father, his role model, mentor, and the heart of Carlo's Bakery. Lung cancer took Bartolo Valastro Sr., quickly leaving behind not only grief, but an enormous responsibility resting squarely on Buddy's young shoulders. Without formal training or business experience, Buddy suddenly found himself standing in his father's shoes, responsible for keeping their family business alive. What might have overwhelmed another teenager, instead, fueled Buddy with a determination powered by love and a promise he had made to make his father proud and to turn Carlo's into a household name. The early years were grueling. Buddy worked around the clock, learning through mistakes, pushing himself creatively, and refusing to let the bakery fail. His father's lessons echoed in everything he did. Show up, work hard, love what you do. It was in these difficult years that Buddy forged his identity, not just as a baker, but as a leader. And slowly, his talent and drive began to attract attention far beyond Hoboken. The first flicker of fame that sparked a television legacy. As Buddy refined his craft and innovated designs that pushed the boundaries of cake artistry, his reputation grew beyond New Jersey. His cakes began appearing in bridal magazines, earning him recognition among brides seeking elaborate storytelling style creations. But the turning point came in 2007 when he stepped onto national television through Food Network Challenge. His presence, confident, passionate, and skillful, instantly grabbed viewers' attention. Producers saw more than just his mastery with fondant and sugar. They saw the dynamic environment of a family-run bakery buzzing with personality, conflict, and charm. Conversations behind the scenes soon turned into serious plans for a reality TV show centered around Buddy's life and the high-stakes world of custom cakes. In that moment, the spark that would ignite a global phenomenon was lit. Buddy had unknowingly stepped onto a path that would transform his small hometown bakery into an international brand and reshape the course of his family's life forever. The explosive rise of Cake Boss and a family empire. When Cake Boss premiered in 2009 on TLC, it quickly became must-watch television around the world. People were mesmerized, not only by Buddy's towering, extravagant cakes, but by the authentic, chaotic, and deeply relatable family dynamics at Carlo's Bakery. Viewers laughed at sibling disagreements, held their breath during rush orders, and fell in love with personalities that felt like neighbors rather than TV characters. The show catapulted Buddy into international stardom, turning Hoboken into a major tourist destination with lines stretching down the block. As demand grew, Buddy expanded Carlo's Bakery far beyond its original storefront. New locations popped up across the US and internationally, while he also branched into cookbooks, merchandise, baking tools, and new restaurant concepts. Soon, his brand extended from television to kitchens, homes, and retail shelves everywhere. Additional spin-offs like Next Great Baker, Kitchen Boss, and Buddy Versus. Duff further cemented his status as a household name, but this meteoric rise came with immense pressure that eventually took its toll in ways the public couldn't see behind the frosting and fanfare. A grueling comeback. Fueled by determination and family. After the accident, Buddy's life shifted from high-paced creativity to the slow, often frustrating process of physical rehabilitation. Day after day, he worked through painstaking exercises to rebuild strength, dexterity, and fine motor control. For someone who had spent decades making the extraordinary look effortless, the inability to perform basic movements was heartbreaking. But Buddy refused to give up. Supported by his wife, Lisa, his children, and a medical team committed to restoring his abilities, he pushed through setbacks and small victories alike. Over time, he regained approximately 95% function in his right hand, something doctors initially doubted was possible. Returning to the kitchen was emotional. Buddy had to relearn techniques and accept that some tasks would take longer or require help. But stepping back into his creative role reminded him why he had fought so hard. For fans, his comeback wasn't just about seeing him decorate again. It was witnessing resilience in its purest form. Rebuilding the empire through reinvention. The years following his accident and personal struggles marked a period of reinvention for Buddy. Several physical Carlo's Bakery locations closed, especially post-pandemic, but this wasn't a retreat. It was a calculated shift. Buddy pivoted toward a digital-first model focused on nationwide shipping, online ordering, and viral-friendly dessert products. The brand became leaner, more modern, and more accessible to customers all over the country. Yet he didn't abandon physical spaces entirely. In 2024, Buddy opened a new flagship Carlo's Bakery in New York City's Times Square. The location blends tradition with modern innovation, featuring on-demand dessert, vending machines, and a design tailored for social media culture. This blend of old and new marks Buddy's evolution as an entrepreneur. Still rooted in family, but adaptive to changing times. A new era, Cake Dynasty, and passing the torch. In 2023, Buddy officially returned to television with Buddy Valastro's Cake Dynasty, a show that represents the next chapter in the Cake Boss story. This time, the spotlight isn't just on Buddy. It's on his children. His daughter Sophia and his sons are learning the ropes, taking on responsibilities, and stepping into the legacy their grandfather once built for Buddy. The show focuses on succession, growth, and the emotional weight of handing over a family empire. Fans get to see Buddy not just as a baker, but as a father preparing the next generation to lead. Even as his hand remains partially limited, Buddy finds renewed purpose in teaching, mentoring, and guiding his kids. It's a full circle moment. Just as he once learned at his father's side, his children now learn at his. The legacy of grit, growth, and generations after everything. Fame, injuries, controversies, losses and triumphs. Buddy Valastro stands today not only as the cake boss, but as a symbol of resilience. He has transformed setbacks into fuel, heartbreak into clarity, and tradition into empire. His legacy is no longer defined solely by towering cakes or television fame, but by perseverance, evolution, and family roots that have carried him through every rise and fall. Buddy's story isn't just about success. It's about surviving life's hardest chapters and still choosing to rebuild. From Hoboken to Hollywood to Times Square, the cake boss continues to rise, not because everything went right, but because he refused to quit when everything went wrong.